Alrighty. Hello, fellow listener, and welcome to episode 2 of So You Think You're Fine. We are super excited to have you join us for part 2, episode 2, many more to come.
Yes.
Again, this is Bethany and MS.
Artemis,
Yes.
whichever.
Yeah.
I guess I'll explain as to why I go by
Yes,
MS.
that is another story which I'm super excited for us to cover. Today, we're just going to have fun and do this podcast while we figure out this thing called life. So, to start, let's kind of give the viewers, our listeners, a little bit more of a background on who we are.
Yeah.
Emmis, where are you originally from, girl?
Yeah.
Give the teats.
So I know that we wanted to talk about a little bit so they can get to know us and where we come from, how do we get here? How did I get here? Because I was technically like a fresh off the boat kind of deal.
Literally.
Versus you grew up here, so it's a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Europe, and I was born in Albania.
Wow.
And I lived there till I was 12.
Okay.
And then we moved to Chicago when a lot of things were going on in Albania, and my parents decided to come over this way, which was great. The only thing that was different, or difficult, I should say, is that I didn't speak a word of English, and
No
none.
way.
Zero.
Like straight from Albania to Chicago, on the streets, just no English.
I mean, on the
Not
burbs,
on the streets, yeah.
the burbs of Chicago, a little different than the streets, but I didn't. So, just a little bit of background. I was born in Europe, born in Albania. I don't have any siblings, so it was just me. But have you seen my big Greek fat wedding or big?
Yes, my big fat Greek wedding.
My big fat Greek wedding. Yes,
yes.
You've seen it, yeah?
Yeah, my mom. That was like one of our movies. That is a great movie. Which they came out with a third.
I think so. They went back to Greece. So just like that, that's how my family is.
Really?
So it's wild. Okay. Everybody's in each other's business at all times. Everybody knows what somebody's doing. Mm-hmm. Everybody is gathering together. So like even like the big parties, they always have like the lamb on the spit.
No way.
All the time. It's just wild.
How cool. I feel like that has to be amazing, but also sometimes like when they're always in your business, a little bit of a burden. Do you feel like that? Like
100%.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I was also an only child.
Oh.
So all eyes were on me like a hawk at all times. So that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, on my side of things, like my mom was very, very much like strict on things and very OCD. Okay. So I am OCD on things. And so it's a little bit different when you grow up in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like in America where everywhere you go throughout America, everybody speaks English. Like you can drive to California, English. Yeah. Drive up Denver, English. Yeah. You know what I mean? And in Europe, it's different because, do you know where Albania falls?
No, not actually.
Not a lot of people do.
Full transparency, no, I do not.
Okay.
Geographically, I'm probably failing.
So if you're looking at the map of Europe, you have Western Europe and you have Eastern Europe.
Okay.
Eastern Europe, do you know where Greece falls?
Yeah.
Greece and Turkey?
Yep.
We're both Greece. So my city was just 4 hours away driving to Greece. So we used to go there all the time when I was a kid.
Nice.
Which was awesome. But again, if you don't speak the language, and back in the day, it's not like English was a language that everybody spoke.
Yeah.
You didn't learn that, so when it was a little bit harder to kind of like get along, or go places. But my dad spoke Greek. My mom didn't speak Greek. She learned Russian when she was in school.
What?
She learned Russian. So she still remembers some of the words and stuff, but it was mandatory. Yeah. Because it was communism for 50 years.
Wow, that's a fair point. So do you know a little bit of Greek yourself?
I know words to get around. Okay. Which when I was in Greece, I was like, thank you, goodbye, like where can we go here? Like just little tiny things, but not too much. Okay. I was fluent in Italian. Nice. And I had to take French in school because technically the game plan for us was, Albanian school, elementary school, middle school. My high school was going to be all French, no Albanian, just all the classes were going to be in French.
Really?
And then after graduating from high school, I was supposed to go to Paris. That was the game plan.
Oh,
all along. My school was a French school. All along I was supposed to not be here. So I didn't learn English at all. It was Albanian, Italian, French, which I hated. I loathed it.
Really?
Oh my God,
like your least favorite?
So much. The worst.
Okay.
You have to go, I can't.
Is it the pronunciation that you just like struggle the most with? So you're like,
no,
therefore
I, was really
I despise
good at that.
it?
I just despised the language.
Okay.
And then the older I got, the more I loved it.
Okay.
So I was doing French in school, and I was also doing French outside of school. So technically, when I was fourth grade, fifth grade, I was at a level of a high schooler in French. Because I was doing both, which was great.
That is awesome. That is superior. So are you a quadlingo queen?
I am.
Is that the correct term for that?
I am. I guess so, yeah.
Dude, that is awesome.
Do I use it anywhere? No.
It's okay, but if needed, you have it in your arsenal, so you could definitely be like watch this.
Pocket,
Yeah, literally. And you never know when you might need it. But that is amazing. And that's just like another thing that's crazy about growing up in Europe compared to the States.
Because you have to. It was like mandatory. And most of the shows were in Italian at the time, and there was so many different things that the culture, people love learning each other's cultures.
Yeah.
But I also think Albanians are very big fond of other cultures. If you go to Albania, you will listen to American songs, you will listen to Greek songs, Turkish songs, French songs, Italian songs, all of that. We listen to all of it. I grew up listening to Greek songs, and my city was so close to it that,
Yeah, well, 4 hours, right?
Exactly.
That's literally easy.
Nothing.
That's nothing. That's
so
literally
easy.
Nothing. Wow, and that's a whole other language over there, too.
Yeah, exactly.
That is crazy. So what made you guys come to Chicago out of all places in the United States? What prompted that move?
So in 1990, we turned from communism to democracy. Okay. But to be honest with you, it wasn't real democracy. It was just kind of a shit show. There's obviously 2 terms, right? Yeah. 4 years and 4 years. Well, the president at the time, he did not want to give up his second term. Okay. So he legit just opened all the gates for guns, and he let all the prisoners out.
Wow.
And in 1997, we had an internal war that I did not leave my house for a full year.
Oh my gosh.
My dad was the only one that had that would go outside and buy groceries. Just to give you an idea, my city, it's Korcha, but it's one of the oldest cities, and our house was right in the middle. We had 2 houses, but one of them that we used to stay was right in the middle. The apartments in downtown, technically, they face both ways. So they face the main street, but they face the back street too. So the whole condo, you can go back and forth, kind of you can see the back and the front, right?
Yeah.
Well, when that happened, when we were inside, we were not allowed to go outside at all. There were gunshots everywhere, every single time of the night. In the morning, we had obviously a lot of guns at our house too. Yeah. My dad we even had a Kalashnikov at the time, which is. Yeah, so we had a lot of guns.
Self-defense right there.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's your family, right? You want to protect your family, so that's fair. That is crazy.
Yeah, and I remember I was just a kid, 1997. I think I was 10, 11 years old probably.
Wow.
All we did was watch TV. I couldn't leave anywhere. The curtains and the shades were always down because we didn't know where gunshots were coming from at all time. And I remember some of the nights my parents would be like, okay, we're going to go sleep in the room on the back because there were a lot of gunshots on this side.
Wow.
And then one night we'd be like, okay, we're going to move on the other side. And I remember to this day that we had a big balcony as well too, but I remember to this day one night at 2 to 2:40 in the morning, because we woke up, there were 2 gangs that were fighting with one another right underneath our building in the main street. Gosh. They shot this guy 200 times.
What?
200 times.
How is that even feasible?
They made him into a pulp. And then they took the tank and they ran his body over. So when we woke up in the morning, we would open the windows and stuff or whatever, and you could see just blood everywhere. And I cannot forget that memory.
Yeah, I don't know how you could ever unsee that.
You can't.
Especially as a child. Yeah. And imagine your parents, that is definitely a turning point of okay, we can no longer be here.
And it got worse. It became better because after a year, they're just okay, we're good. We're not gonna do the war is over, as they called it, whatever. 1998, Kosovo went to war, and we had a lot of people migrate to Albania with the war that happened there, which is just another crazy thing. But my dad had to physically take me to school. My school was 2 blocks down. Mm-hmm. My dad had to physically take me to school in the morning, and it only opened for 4 hours, and pick me up from school. And we had guards with huge guns in front of our schools, because what was happening is they were running into schools, kidnapping girls and boys, and sex trafficking them across to Italy.
Just right there.
Just right there. In daylight, just picking up, where they would come in vans, run through a school, kidnap children, and take them straight to Italy. We're 4 hours away on boat. Yeah. Nobody would know where it was going. So whenever I see the movie Taken, which obviously there's some Albanians that are involved in, and everybody's just like, "Oh, you're Albanian, Taken." I'm like, "Yes,
you're like,
I lived through it."
That's one of the things. Yeah.
I'm like, I lived through it. But it was terrifying. It was honestly terrifying. And when people are just like, "Oh, you know, children trafficking and human trafficking, not a big thing," big thing. Yeah. The money from selling drugs, the drug is gone. The money from selling a human multiple times over and over and over again, that's how you make money, and it's a real thing. So anybody that says, "Oh, it's not real, it's just this conspiracy theories," no. I lived through it, and it was terrifying. So my parents did a lottery. There's a lottery that they do in Europe.
What is that exactly?
It's just like a lottery that they do throughout countries in Europe to come to America. So you throw the lottery, you get the number, you get a second number, and then you set up the interview and the blood work and everything else. And if the interview goes well, then you get to move to America.
Oh, like they give you visas and everything?
Yes, you get a green card and a social security card right off the bat.
Wow.
And then after that, 5 years, if you've been a good citizen, obviously, then you can go for the passport. Which obviously I'm dual citizenship. Okay. Like with my Albanian passport and with the American passport.
Nice.
But yeah, that's how we came here, because we didn't have a way on coming here with my great-grandpa. My great-grandpa back in the 1900s, early in the day, owned 3 hotels in Boston.
Wow.
Yeah.
From Albania.
From Albania. He owned.
How did he get into that?
He lived here.
Okay. I was like, wait, how did he buy hotels in Boston?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And then he sold them for the independence of Albania, so he's 1 out of 10. Wow. We still have the first flag of Albania. My aunt has it. We have medals and everything else, which was very cool. But one of his daughters married and stayed in Detroit. Okay. And then the other 2 daughters, which is my grandma and my grandma's sister, they fought in World War II and they were in Albania.
Wow, that's crazy. So that was going to be one of my next questions. Was it just you, your mom, and your dad that came from Albania to the States?
Yes.
And then did shortly after other family members come, or?
My aunt and my uncle won the lottery as well too. Oh, okay. They won it at the same time as we did, but their number was a super high number, and they stopped. But then 3 years later, they won it again, and then they came. So.
Oh, wow. What are the odds? That is fate speaking right there. I mean, the world works in very crazy ways, but that's literally fate. It was meant for you guys to come over here and your family too, and thankfully you and your family are okay. You know, you went through that, but that is such a traumatic childhood. Just even though it was probably just a little fragment of your childhood, it's such a big thing.
It's true. It was just very hard, and I don't think a lot of people understand. So whenever the war in Ukraine is going on, or other wars that we have going on right now, and Israel and Palestine and everything else,
it's real and it's happening.
It's tough. Yeah. You can only feel what they are feeling because you went through it. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't see it. America doesn't really get which thankfully we don't, but it's just different, you know?
Yeah, and I think there definitely is, for sure, sex trafficking in America. To this day, 100%. There's probably, as scary as this is to realize it, which to your point, I think a lot of us Americans, we kind of just out of sight, out of mind it, you know, which in a way it's a coping mechanism, but it's not the best in reality. Yeah. It's probably going on 2 blocks from us right now.
100%.
You know, right now we're just talking, we're doing this podcast, there's probably something going on in regards to sex trafficking, local. But we just don't know, you know, we don't pay mind to it, we're not as aware as it should be, and it's such a pressing matter that it's mind-blowing. But that's the thing.
I agree with that.
But that is crazy. Well, I mean, besides that, I'm glad you and your family are okay, and I'm glad you came to the States, because now we met each other. And you know, girl, literally, life keeps trucking. You're going through still some crazy ups and downs, which I know it's not the same multitude of that. But I mean, that's just the funny thing of life and how that works, which wild.
What about you? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up actually in California.
Nice.
For my fellow listeners that are tuning in from back home, the good old HD. Just kidding, it's not great. It is a little poopy hole. It's just a little rural town. I mean, it's definitely like a hometowny vibe. I mean, just to, you know, put it out there, we do have a Target and a Costco.
How many stoplights?
Oh, there's actually a decent amount of stoplights. It's just nothing compared to.
I just want to make sure.
People that are like listening are probably like, Bethany grew up at a ranch in the middle of nowhere.
But that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of cool because it was definitely like hometown vibes, which I'm grateful about. But I grew up in a town called Apple Valley. Okay. I say the high desert just because it's like a general thing that people say, because it's like 3 towns. It's like Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley. But that's where I'm originally from. So California. My parents were first generation, so I am second generation. They came from Mexico, which, if I remember correctly, Mom, don't kill me if you're listening to this, but I believe it's Jalisco, and I believe it's Guadalupe on my dad's side, and then for my mom's side, I want to say, what's it called, Tijuana, and I kind of forget the other one on my grandma's mom's side. But so that's where they're from. So my parents were first generation. I'm second generation. Grew up in that town, did some fun little hometown things, but I initially moved out here to Arizona probably 5 years ago, about 5. It was January of 2020, so it's actually be about 4 years. Yeah. But came out here, just wanted to do something new, something exciting. Wanted to get out of my hometown. Like, I was just afraid of just being stuck in that hometown and just kind of following into the mundane of like, all right, I am here and I'm just going to work a average life, you know, probably get into an average relationship and just stay into it. So I didn't want to do that. And my parents actually divorced when I was in high school, young. I was like freshman year, I believe. So my mom always lived here in Arizona. Okay. And ever since she moved out, she was always like, Beth, come to Arizona. And I was like, I don't know, Mom. Like, I'm in high school, and like, I am not going to like pick up everything and move out there, because she moved out with her boyfriend here, and I had like my dad and my cousins, and I already had like my established friendships there. So like, I was super scared to like just, okay, bye, like whole new state, whole new world, whole new people. Like, I was not about it. So I actually stayed with my dad back home and just finished high school, did some community college, and then I moved out here. But my mom for the years was like, Beth, like, come out to Arizona, just try it, venture. If you hate it, you could always go back. And 100%. That's when
that's so true.
Exactly. And that's honestly the thing that I have to say to like anybody that is like listening and is debating the idea of just moving somewhere, like 100% do it. Yeah. You're not going to regret it. Yeah. If you hate it, like, guess what? You could always move back. But you can never get back the time where you didn't make that decision and took that leap. So that's one of the things that I'm very grateful for. Like, shout out to my mom for like pestering. I mean, she wanted her daughter to be with her. Of course. But shout out to my mom, because I would have probably just stayed in California, and I'm sure I would have been on like my own journey, still doing great things, but it would have just been like a whole new thing. And, you know, there's always another path to it. But so moved out here and just, you know, tried it out, went to school, and I love it. I don't care for the 115-degree summers. Same. I'm just a baby in that aspect. It is hot. It is hot, and shout out to the workers that are outside, like construction or like law enforcement. Those, like, shout out to you guys, because that is crazy to me. It is wild.
But I would take this over shoveling in Chicago.
That's
any day.
True.
Oh my God.
I've heard horror stories when it comes to the winters, like -32. Girl, not me.
Beth,
not me, girl.
Sometimes,
not me.
Sometimes you would get this thing in your car. I don't even know what it was. It was like, you know, like a cover in your car, but of ice.
Oh, like a straight layer of ice.
Like a straight thick layer of ice.
How do you get in your car in the morning?
Your car key, you scrape and you scrape and you scrape. You can't even open the door.
Oh my God.
It's like you would run in your like pajamas and a robe and a coat, and then you scrape away, then you start it and you leave it there for half an hour.
Just to like defrost.
Just to defrost.
Oh my God.
Or sometimes if you're running late for work, oh my God, running late for work, you just open one little window of your windshield, and I would just drive there. That's why I have liability. Such a trash record in driving. We'll talk another time.
Is it truly the environment of the cold weather? I think it's kind of 50-50.
No, I'm a great driver. I'm a great driver.
All right. Has your driving record been better here since you've been in Arizona?
Okay, I know that we talked about my driving record one time.
Girl.
I have only been pulled over 2 times here in Arizona.
Okay.
And one time I was going 109 on the 65.
Oh, girl, that's spicy. That's some spicy speed right there.
The week before,
okay,
I got run over with my Mini Cooper.
Oh my gosh!
Someone pushed me on the street, like on a 5-lane highway. Someone like pushed me on the side. My car spun like all the way to the corner, and he drove off.
Wow!
And I was like, honestly, somebody must have been watching over me.
Yeah.
Because I would have been dead in rush hour. I would have been T-boned after T-boned. So
crazy.
That said, I had my dad's Buick.
Huh. Okay.
So the cop pulls me over. I'm really funny.
Yeah,
when
that's good.
People pull me over.
Like
I'm not
nervous funny, or are you like intentionally being funny?
No, I'm intentionally being either funny or being dumb.
Okay.
Like real dumb. Like I'm the dumbest human on earth.
Like they're like, ma'am, your ID, and you're like, what?
What's that?
Yeah. Okay.
He goes, do you know how fast you were going? And I was like, officer, how fast could I possibly be going in a Buick?
Oh.
And he like looked at me and he's like, what?
He's like, ma'am.
And I was like, I'm gonna be real honest with you. It's not my car. It's my dad's car. It's like it rides like a shit. Like that thing, like you can't tell. You could be going to 100 and you're just like
chilling, thinking like 45.
And I was like, I was
station.
just jamming to music.
What were you listening to?
I have no idea. Probably, you know what? I probably do know what I would listen to. Either Khalid or The Weeknd's old album came like 70 years ago.
Khalid and The Weeknd. Let me just say, like 2017 to like 2020, like they were making some magic.
So
they were making magic. They're producers, 10 out of 10. Chef's kiss. I mean, they still make some great things, but I just noticed that like some artists, they just have that climb of like peakness, and then it fluctuates, and some never come back. But like Khalid,
it was good. It was
fire.
So good. And he's like, where are you going? And I was like, honestly, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
He's like, are you late?
Can I have your driver's license? And I was like, fine, absolutely. But I knew I still had my Illinois my brand new Arizona license.
Yeah.
But my Illinois stuff, all the stuff that I did in Illinois, didn't come through.
Nice.
Convenient. And he goes, clean record. I was like, I got a clean record.
You're like, of
clean,
course.
squeaky.
Yeah. You're like, so please don't jeopardize my record now.
Yeah. And he goes, I need to let you know that in state of Arizona, you could go to jail for this. And I was like, in jail?
Me?
Speeding in my spaceship?
No way.
And he goes, I'm just going to give you a warning. And I was like, you are so great.
What a kind guy.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Rolls up window and starts bumping again.
And I was like, hey, let me pass you real quick and then go back to 109.
Yeah, just, in the clear, make sure in the rearview mirror you don't see anyone, and then boop, boop. But yeah, dude, Arizona highways, crazy, crazy, crazy. Better than California highways, for sure.
Better than Chicago highways. No potholes.
Really?
I would lose a wheel every time I was in Chicago. Pothole everywhere.
Wow, if you didn't hit a pothole, it wasn't a normal day in Chicago. Literally.
Yes.
That is wild. But yeah, well, I mean, girl, that driving record, we got to work on it. Hopefully you don't get any more pullovers.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood, girl.
We can't.
Somewhere. I know there's no wood nearby. But theoretically, we are knocking on wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I got out here to Arizona, and ever since then, I have loved it. Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, take the jump, move to where you want to move, girl or boy. You can always move back. So just take that jump, take the risk. I totally love it, and that's how I got to here. Well, now we're doing this podcast. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what we do for work. Yeah. Do you want to start with your journey, girl? Let's hear it.
So I've been doing mortgages for, it's over 7 years right now. But I quit a major company about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
I was with them for a while. I loved every bit of it. There were a lot of challenges that come along with it, and I think sometimes when you go through those ups and downs, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but when you go to that, you just kind of need a clean slate, kind of a break. So I quit, and then I was like, you know what? I can be dual here in Arizona, so I legit just, when I got my real estate license, and my degree's in, fine arts, and I love interior design. So technically I've been doing mortgages, real estate, and interior design. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You get pre-approved, you find a house, you interior design. Boom.
That is awesome.
Yeah. What about you, ma'am?
Yeah. Well, if you're asking, no, I'm kidding. I do mortgages as well too. Fairly new to it. Been in it about 2.5 years, and I just want to say I love it, but it is crazy. It is not at all what I imagined initially getting into it. Every day you are learning something new.
Yeah.
Like every client is not the same. There are so many guidelines, so many things like that, which I know people listening are like, guidelines, Beth, what is that? It's just basically like rules we have to follow, but it's such a great profession to get into. I mean, it's a financial profession, and also too, like, we're helping people guide in like one of the biggest financial things they're going to take on in their life. So it's really nice to know that you can guide someone and you're just knowledgeable, because everyone needs a home. Everyone wants to be in a home, buy a home, and to be financially savvy is so important. But it's definitely a crazy profession and industry. Like, we're talking to people every day. Like, sales is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, everyday people, like, no person's the same. Like, how you approach things differently. Like, every day we're learning on that. Like, what do you think of sales? Like, did you ever see yourself getting into sales? Like, growing up, getting out of high school, just like becoming a young adult, was that a vision you saw?
I was in accounting, so I graduated early from high school because I had all my classes. And I went into the accounting mode of things. My parents wanted me to go that route, make more money, whatever. But I got tired of it, and I was like, you know what? I quit. I'm going to go to the Art Institute. So I technically went for design.
Okay. And that's how you have your designing degree, correct? Okay.
For sure, yes. And then I went into the managing side on the design side. So I managed BCBG and Taylor, Talbot, all those places that you can think of. And when I first moved here to Arizona, I came back and managed BCBG for a little bit before they went out of business. And that's how I got into the big company with mortgages. Wow. Prior to that, though, I was 6 years. I worked at U.S. Bank, so I was there for 6 years. So technically, I don't know. I've been in like both sides of things, the art side of things, but also the financial side of things.
Okay, so you dipped your toes a little bit at U.S. Bank, got that, and then that's awesome. Yeah. So, like, with that being said, and the aspect of like changing into industries and all that, like, how has that been? Like, what point did you kind of decide, like, okay, maybe I should venture into something else?
The mental space and things.
Yeah.
Like, it was just extremely exhausting.
Okay.
And I went into the leadership side of things, and it was just mentally exhausting every single day.
Yeah.
And COVID just sped things up even worse. I'm very outgoing, and I'm an extrovert with a little bit of introvert. I have my introvert things that I need to recharge because I'm an empath.
I feel like that's super reasonable. Like, everybody kind of has their moment of like their cap, right?
Yeah.
In both ways, whether they're extrovert or introvert.
So I'm very much extroverted all the time, but then a little bit of an introverted, and I need to recharge my batteries because sometimes people drain me. But with that said, I was just so mentally and emotionally drained that I was like, there's got to be something else out there, something that I enjoy doing. And if I were to put two and two together, I enjoy the real estate and the mortgage side, but I love the designing of things. Like, that is just like my bread and butter.
Okay, I love that. Can we dabble a little bit about being in the director role, which you were in at a major company? Like, how was that? Like, as a female in the sales industry, it's kind of rare. I mean, now it's becoming more common, but just having like strong female leadership roles, how was that for you?
How much time do we got?
Girl, we're
gonna need like 2 episodes of going into that, Beth.
Yes, I definitely want to dabble more, but just kind of like a tip of the iceberg, like just going into it. I'm sure you have like
you
so
are
much.
Fighting with bros all day long.
Yeah, bros that are hoes, I'm sure. Some hoey bros for sure.
Hoey bros. I've never been a person to kiss anyone's ass. That's just how I am, and I'm speaking blunt right now, but you have to find some median point where you are being liked and reciprocated when it comes to what you're given as bankers that are joining your team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a doozy.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved every bit of it. I love a challenge, and I love being busy, and I love helping people, and my main thing was to help people.
Yeah.
And I love when people grow and they help their families, and it just makes me really happy, and I think that was the hardest part of me letting go.
Yeah, that's fair. So someone who is about to be in a role like that, or is trying to get in a role like that in any career path that they have, like, what's a piece of advice you would have wished someone told you prior to getting into that?
Come with a therapist.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully you have some health insurance benefits with your compensation factor.
Come with a therapist, because you're gonna need to vent.
Yeah.
And I got mine, and he's been spot on since that day. But yeah, we'll talk more, and I'll be more than happy to like share what I went through and my experiences. And you know, I'm grateful because I learned a lot of lessons. But you know, it was challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then with the shift in the market too, that is a whole nother beast in its own that you just had to overcome. But I mean, you know, it led you here, and now you're on the wholesale side, and you get to do a bit of both, and it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right?
Very much.
I mean, you got to learn a lot of great things. You got to meet a lot of great people. You got that experience, but also to kind of sacrifice, which that's debatable on your end if you think it was worth it or not. But I think it was.
You know, I think all of these things in our lives, when it comes to work, when it comes to career, when it comes to you know, things that we like to do outside of work or mental health or whatever it is, they're all going hand in hand. So like next episode, we have a guest speaker, which I'm super excited.
I am jazzed
Dr. Jordan Odell is going to be joining us, and she is phenomenal. I got the pleasure to meet her at a BNI group a year ago almost, and she has helped so much with a lot of things that women go through. So I'm super excited to have her. We're going to bring her in. She's going to give us some knowledge.
We are going to ask her the questions that we've always been
wondering. The questions that the women need. The questions that the women don't even know.
Yeah, like full transparency, girl. Like elaborate on XYZ, because there are so many things. Like just being a female, you're kind of like, what the heck is this? I'm just like moving through it, navigating. They're kind of like, okay, like I'm fine, like it's okay. And it's like, girl, maybe you needed to talk to someone about it. You know, for your physical health, mental health. But that is so exciting. I'm so excited for her.
Me too.
We're gonna have some good stuff coming up for sure.
Yes. So I'm stoked. But thank you guys for joining us on our second episode.
Woo, woo.
Obviously, some of them are going to be a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but that's all we got for today. So please follow us. We got everything up and running. Spotify, YouTube,
Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
Whoop, whoop.
We got our Instagram up and running, and also our TikTok.
Right.
So
give us a follow, a little subscribe-y, you know, something, a little clicky-click. Put that notification on.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, girl, doing laundry, going for a walk, checking the mail. Give us a little listen. Give us a little listen, you know. And we're going to have a bunch of great new people coming on as well, guest-wise. So we're going to spice things up, talk about everything above and below. So we love that. But yeah, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Keisha.